Drone shots usually involve footage of city skylines and beautiful landscapes. However, sometimes drones fly straight into the Twilight Zone, capturing some terrifying things on camera. From Great British ghouls to a high-speed bear chase, let's take a bone-chilling flight through the scariest things caught by drones. Creepin' clowns. Let's kick things off with something everyone's at least a teeny bit scared of. Clowns. In 2022, U.S. News & World Report named the city of Huntsville, Alabama, the best place to live in America. But that hasn't always been the case. Back in 2016, Huntsville briefly became a pretty scary place to live when a drone pilot caught something terrifying roaming in one of the city's cornfields. As that highly unnerving sight may remind you, 2016 was the year of Pokemon Go, Harambe, and the scariest viral trend ever, people everywhere dressing as clowns. Seemingly overnight, the world was taken over by creepy clowns looming in alleyways and jumping out at pedestrians. These clown attacks were no laughing matter, and some places made it illegal to buy and wear clown masks in public for a period of time. This specific piece of clown content comes from YouTuber Golden Hour, his drone capturing footage of a creepy clown staring straight up at the camera before turning and running away. The video's pretty chilling. However, Golden Hour might not have been as scared by the sighting as he claims. The stalker clown trend started in summer 2016, and by the time Golden Hour uploaded his video in October, clown sightings were generating some of the most viewed videos on YouTube. As a result, lots of fakes started to appear, YouTubers capitalizing on the trend to increase their views. Lots of commenters pointed out that Golden Hour's video would be incredibly easy to fake, simply requiring a clown mask and a friend to put it on and run away. Even if the video turns out to be a phony, there's no denying encountering a clown in that isolated rural environment would be absolutely terrifying. Great British ghosts. It turns out the scariest thing about the UK isn't their cuisine. It's Cannock Chase, a large patch of countryside that's allegedly known as one of the most haunted places in Britain. Cannock Chase is home to a wealth of local tales and historic legends of werewolves, UFOs, and the black-eyed child. The last of which being the supposed ghost of a little girl who's been terrorizing dog walkers since the 1980s. Legend has it if you're walking through Cannock Chase, you might hear a little girl crying out from the woods, and if you go to investigate, you'll find her standing with her hands over her face. When you approach the girl, she removes her hands, revealing black eyes and a twisted smile before disappearing. Back in 2015, YouTuber Furious Otter took his drone for a flight over Cannock Chase, and mid-flight he spotted a strange figure standing amongst the trees. As Otter lowered the drone, his blood ran cold, the camera capturing footage of what appeared to be a pale, dark-haired little girl or young woman in a white dress with ghostly features. Furious Otter claims to be the latest victim of the black-eyed child, however some commenters were quick to call his video out as a fake. First of all, he inexplicably kept his distance from the girl, never flying closer to the figure for a better look. Granted, moving closer might have been scary, but as the grainy video quality makes it unclear what the girl actually looks like, the figure could just be an ordinary person in a costume. Fake or not, the drone footage is pretty terrifying, and if I ever visit England, I'm gonna steer clear of Cannock Chase. Agricultural anomaly. Let's keep it British now, heading over to a field in Dorset, England. Back in 2015, YouTuber Making Imagery and a friend took a drone into the countryside intending to film the landscape. Instead, the footage captured by their drone became an X-file, as the duo stumbled across a giant crop circle cut into the corn. The formation looks extraterrestrial, featuring shapes that resemble crescent moons, stars, and a slightly satanic pentagram. As the clips went viral online, netizens ran wild with theories about who created the shapes. Aliens? Devil worshippers? Maybe, but it was probably just a bored farmer with a creative streak. Back in the 70s, crop circles started cropping up all over the world, sending conspiracy theorists into a frenzy. Unfortunately, skeptics soon discovered that crop circles aren't made with flying saucers. They're made with large wooden boards and rope. This equipment allows the human artist to drag the board around the ground, flattening the crops to create the pattern. These basic tools can be used to make incredibly complex designs, and making imagery's crop circle could have easily been created using this method. Regardless of who its creator was, this formation is definitely the cream of the crop, and the intricate design is sure to win Best in Show at the annual Alien Meetup. A hole in the sky. In 2020, freelance drone pilot Richard Cranner was paid to capture some footage of a farm in Ventura, California. The job went smoothly, but after reviewing the footage at home, he spotted a glitch in the matrix, his drone capturing a black square seemingly cut into the middle of the sky. After zooming in, Richard also noticed two smaller objects flying in formation with the square, maneuvering through the clouds. After Cranner posted the footage online, some netizens claimed that these unidentified aerial phenomena were proof of alien life visiting our world. However, more skeptical commenters offered some alternate suggestions. While the observable movement of the objects between the cloud layers seemingly rules out them being smudges or bugs on the camera lens, some suggested that the square could be a floating banner and the smaller UFO on the right an advertising plane towing the banner behind. The conspiracy theorists rejected this suggestion, pointing out that the large UFO appears to be a rigid square, and there's no evidence of the object flapping in the wind. The supposed banner also appears to be flying in front of the clouds, while the leading aircraft is flying behind them. Other netizens have suggested that the object could be some kind of experimental military aircraft. Stealth planes like the B-2 bomber have caused a lot of alarm over the years when citizens have caught a glimpse of the aircraft from the ground and assumed that their dark paint jobs and streamlined bodies were extraterrestrial. This seems like a plausible theory, but it's not without flaws. Specifically, the unknown aircraft appears pretty huge, moving in a manner and orientation that'd be atypical of any known stealth bombers. Plus, it seems unlikely that the military would design and manufacture a giant square for covert operations. All in all, the cloud-faring shapes in this video remain a bit of a mystery. But what do you think? Is the square in the sky a banner, an alien, or even a visual glitch caused by an overexposed camera? Let me know your theory in the comments below. Rushing through the woods. Next, let's fly our drones to Russia, the land of vodka, fluffy hats, and their national animal, the brown bear. In 2022, one Russian took their new drone for a flight through the woods, but unfortunately, the test flight turned terrifying when the pilot came across a man running away from a bear. The video ends with the bear chasing the man off camera, and the outlook isn't overly optimistic. That is, if the video is real. Back when the video went viral, a ton of netizens were quick to call it out as fake, often citing the clip's audio. Drones usually have poor microphones, and drone footage is usually accompanied by one hard-to-ignore sound. The absence of the drone's buzzing propeller sound in the bear clip seemingly implies the clip is fake. And the fact that you can flawlessly hear the bear roar and the man scream was enough to prove to some that the video's been altered. Some even claim that the bear itself was CGI, prompting professional VFX artist Corridor Crew to analyze the footage. After reviewing the clip a few times, the pros were convinced that the video was real, arguing that the way that the bear's shadow follows the curves of the snow was so perfect that the footage was near impossible to create digitally without being hugely expensive. So if the bear's real, what gives about the unnatural audio? Well, the team at Snopes decided to figure that out. After doing some digging, Snopes found that the video was made by a TikToker called Dima, who explained the entire thing. It turns out the bear was actually a real animal called Tom, a trained pet that belonged to one of Dima's friends. Dima and his pals staged the video and edited the audio to make the clip more dramatic, improving its chances of going viral. Behind-the-scenes footage of the shoot confirms this, proving that Tom doesn't want to maul the man, and he'd rather pull him into a bear hug. So altogether, kind of real, kind of fake, but either way, not something I'd like to be part of filming. Would you? Shark attack. Let's head out of the snowy wilderness now and take a relaxing vacation, heading down to the coastal seas of Australia. I'm sure there's nothing scary there. Oh, wait, no, I was wrong. This remake of Jaws was recorded by Simon Lawrence, shot on his DJI Mavic Pro drone while crabbing off the coast of Port Lincoln, South Australia. All Simon wanted was to catch some delicious crabs. However, when he launched his drone into the air, he managed to capture the moment that a great white shark swam up and started chomping on the boat. As the shark persisted in chewing on the motor, possibly drawn in due to the shark's innate ability to detect electromagnetic fields, Lawrence decided to ditch his crabs, dropping them into the water in hopes of distracting the sea beast. It seemed to work because the disturbance caused the predator to promptly give up, turning around and swimming away with a dramatic splash. Luckily, Simon and his buddy were safe and sound inside the boat, but sometimes beachgoers encounter sharks without a vehicle to protect them. Christopher Joy is a drone pilot who found a surfer swimming dangerously close to a shark in Wherry Beach, New South Wales. This unfortunate surfer was none the wiser, but luckily, Christopher was able to use the drone's speaker system to shout to the surfer and warn him of the danger. The surfer promptly looked up at the drone, realized the potential danger he was in, and swam back to shore, his splashing scaring the shark away. Well, there's another reason added to the long list of reasons to be afraid of the sea. And you can check out this video of mine if you want some more. Drone heroics. Despite all the sharks, let's stay in Australia just a little longer, traveling to Lennox Head, New South Wales. Back in 2018, lifeguards at Lennox Head were issued Little Rippers, drones that can automatically detect sharks, communicate with swimmers in danger, and drop inflatable lifesavers into the ocean. The lifeguards were busy practicing with their new equipment when they received a panic call about two teenagers struggling in a powerful current around half a mile up the beach. Experienced lifeguard Jai Sheridan was piloting the drone at the time. Jai was still learning how to use the technology. However, the situation forced the trainee to graduate early, flying the drone out to sea and finding the teens in just over a minute. After reaching the teenagers, Jai dropped a self-inflating tube into the water. The life-saving device arrived just in time, a giant wave smashing into the already exhausted kids as they grabbed onto the inflatable. If Jai was any later, the teens could have been swept under for good. But luckily, the student pilot made honor roll, his actions allowing the kids to ride out the waves as they awaited further rescue. Drone under fire. I'm sure those kids were pretty relieved to hear a drone buzzing overhead, but drones aren't always greeted with a smile. In 2018, the Brazilian government used drones to explore the Amazon rainforest, capturing footage of the jungle's wide rivers, towering trees, and isolated, uncontacted tribes. This footage was captured around Brazil's Yorazingo River, showing two tribesmen walking through a clearing. The footage is pretty incredible. However, interfering with uncontacted tribes doesn't always go to plan. These images show the moment that a different unnamed and uncontacted Amazonian tribe decided to open fire on a drone, attempting to shoot it down with arrows as it took their photo. With no access to or awareness of modern technology, we can only imagine what they must have thought the strange buzzing contraption hovering in the air above them was. Imagining ourselves in their shoes, or rather bare feet, it's pretty hard to blame them for being concerned. Robocops. Next up, we have a drone that caught something homeowners associations fear the most: a criminal. Some police forces across America are going full RoboCop mode, using miniature drones to fly into buildings and catch criminals, cleaning up the streets from a safe distance. Once the drone has found a suspect, they can either urge the criminal to surrender via a built-in speaker, or allow the SWAT team to burst inside and make the arrest. These drones are like tiny Inspector gadgets, boasting infrared cameras, speakers, and spotlights. This obviously makes things safer for police officers. However, the fact that these drones can fly into people's homes undetected is pretty scary. Sacramento PD have stated that if you can throw a baseball through the window, we can clear the house, meaning that almost no space is safe from these miniature drones. Some online have argued that this takes the technology from cool to creepy, and if the drones fall into the wrong hands, it could result in a complete loss of privacy, giving a crooked police officer or citizen the power to fly into any home and spy on whoever's inside. If that does happen, I'd say these drones are entitled to a little baseball bat justice of their own in return. Lost and found. Let's take a look at another police drama now. Back in 2018, a 75-year-old man called Peter Pugh went for an afternoon walk with his family, heading from their house in Brancaster, England, to a nearby beach. When it came time to head home, the family took a path around the edge of Titchwell Marsh, a boggy area with waterlogged reed beds, submerged holes, and deep, viscous mud. At some point during the journey, Peter got separated from the group, disappearing entirely. After a while, Peter was reported missing, and the police sprang into action, forming a search party of helicopters, search dogs, and drones. They searched throughout the night, but as morning rolled around, Peter still hadn't been found. At this point, Peter's family feared the worst, until one of the police's drones spotted a shape hidden amongst the waterlogged reeds. "22 hours had passed since Peter went missing, but incredibly, he was alive, trapped up to his armpits in mud, his legs tangled in broken reeds and undergrowth. It turned out after getting lost during the walk home, Peter had accidentally walked straight into the heart of Titchwell Marsh. After tripping and falling in the thick mud, he decided to take a rest, but as the tide came in, Peter found himself surrounded by reeds, mud, and deep water. At this point, he was trapped, and the poor old fellow was forced to wait through the night, sitting amongst the reeds and sipping bog water to survive. He began to think he'd die here, until he heard a buzz overhead, looking up to spot the life-saving police drone. The drone pilot was able to send a ground team to Peter's location, and after being rescued, Peter walked away virtually unscathed, making a full recovery in hospital. Peter Pugh? More like Peter Phew. Alien vs. Predator. We've seen some police drones so far, but now let's check out something a bit more heavy-duty. Air forces around the world use military drones to fly over war zones, firing missiles and capturing footage of the enemy. Drones use some of the best technology that humanity has to offer, but back in 2011, a US Air Force Reaper drone met its match, seemingly capturing some footage of technology that was out of this world. This clip shows a bright white light, identified as an aircraft by the drone's detection systems, flying through a valley at a distance. After a moment, the white light turns, zooming past the drone with a burst of light. It's worth noting that Reaper drones can fly up to 300 miles per hour, so this UFO could well be moving and turning at an insane speed, and even glitches out the drone's camera as it passes. Some people have claimed that this video is proof that extraterrestrials with ultra-fast alien technology are present on Earth. However, despite some pretty thorough digging on my part, the original source of this video remains unclear, and it's impossible to tell whether the clip was leaked from the government or a random netizen with some video editing software. The original uploader claims the footage was handed to them by a US government source, but the government hasn't commented on the existence of the shocking footage. So either the clip is an entertaining fake, or the military is covering it up, hoping that the video will get swept under the rug. What do you think? Government cover-up, or a bit of Adobe After Effects magic? Let me know in the comments below. The Gaping Lake. Back in 2017, a drone pilot came across a pretty unnerving sight, seemingly discovering a wormhole in the middle of Lake Berryessa, California. As the clip went viral, netizens dubbed the wormhole the portal to hell, questioning whether it was a sinkhole, a portal to another world, or an awesome water slide. It turns out the hole is actually the Morning Glory Spillway, a part of the Monticello Dam. If heavy rain or a flood starts to fill the dam's reservoir, the excess water simply overflows into the spillway, stopping the dam from flooding when the water level gets too high. At this point, the water rushes down a 200-foot concrete pipe that rejoins Lake Berryessa at the bottom of the dam. Now I know what you're thinking. I wonder if you could take a canoe down that bad boy. Well, the glory hole may lead to a river, not hell, but that doesn't make it any less terrifying. The pipe is essentially a 200-foot drop onto concrete, and at that height, the water that rushes through the spillway will do little to cushion your fall. In 1997, a woman snuck into the Monticello Dam and went for a swim in the reservoir, and before long, she was sucked into the spillway. Her lifeless body was found the following day, reminding us that sometimes the no swimming sign is there for a reason, and if you want to go on a water slide, you should stick to Splash Mountain. Heads of State. Meeting the president is a huge honor, so imagine how proud this drone pilot was when he met them all at once. When YouTuber Exploring with Perks took his drone for a flight around an abandoned junkyard, he stumbled across a presidential meeting, encountering an eerie discount Mount Rushmore. The heads were statues of various US presidents, each standing up to 20 feet tall. The presidents had fallen far from the Oval Office, now bearing crumbling faces and open holes in the tops of their heads. Looks like George Washington needs a new powdered wig. It turns out these creepy statues used to be part of President's Park in Williamsburg, Virginia. The 10-acre park started displaying the statues in 2004, however it closed in 2010 due to a lack of funding, causing the statues to be moved to private storage. Since then, the artwork has gone to waste, and tragically, the heads of state have been left in a state of disrepair. On the bright side, you no longer need to receive an invitation to the White House to meet the president. Just don't expect him to talk too much. Dubious burial. Let's move from dead presidents to government secrets, checking out some footage of men in hazmat suits suspiciously mass burying coffins on a secret island. The video has all the makings of a government cover-up, and when it went viral, netizens started to question why the figures were burying the coffins. Alien remains? A secret infectious outbreak? Political enemies? Well, while those theories sound pretty dramatic, we can take the tinfoil hats off because this footage actually comes from New York City, not Area 51. It turns out the secret island in the video is actually Hart Island, a place in the Bronx that's used for a burial site for all the lost and forgotten people of New York City. The souls buried at Hart Island were either too poor to afford a private burial or simply unidentified. The island is reported to contain the remains of over 1 million New Yorkers, with burials stretching back to the 1800s and including war veterans, homeless people, and victims of diseases like AIDS and COVID-19. Over 41,000 New Yorkers have died of COVID as of 2022, and the pandemic reportedly increased the population of Hart Island quite a bit, explaining the drone-shot burial we saw a moment ago. The video was shot by the Hart Island Project, a public charity that wants to compile the names of all the people known to be buried on the island, creating a public database that allows families to find any lost relatives who may have ended up there. So far, the project has been able to name over 68,000 people buried on Hart Island, and the project has connected countless New Yorkers with the remains of their lost family members. Despite the slightly unnerving drone footage, the story of Hart Island is more sad than scary, reminding us how easy it is to be forgotten in a city as big as New York. That being said, the island itself is still pretty spooky. I mean, would you want to walk around Hart Island with the souls of 1 million New Yorkers resting under your feet? Forget about it! Well, I don't want to drone on, so that about does it for the scariest things caught by drones. Which footage did you find the creepiest? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.